Hey, what is up guys? Guitar Rock here, welcome back to another Brown Dust video. Alright, today I will be reviewing some of your formations. As always, this is episode 3, welcome for those of you who are new. So I've already done episode 1 and 2 of checking out some of your formations that you guys submitted in my Discord channel in the formations channel tag. A bunch of you guys have been submitting your formations, but I can only choose a few. So in this episode, I will be reviewing 4 different formations. Hopefully, if I didn't review some of your formations, do not fret. You can still learn a thing or two by watching this video. Hopefully, you guys can apply it if you have a similar setup with some of the submitted ones. Alright, as always, I'm gonna jump in first by saying that I'm not the best Brown Dust player ever, or I don't claim to be anything like that. So I'm just reviewing formations because I love seeing a bunch of formations, and occasionally it's quite easy to see other people's mistakes compared to your own. So that's what I've noticed so far, being a veteran Brown Dust player. Alright, so let's jump into it. Okay, so the first formation is submitted by this user Oni Senpai. So very interesting formation indeed. So starting off with Lian, and that's a cool looking one. Lian number 1, straight up going to go for the so-called suicide at the rare end of the opponent's formation. And then we have Edwin at number 2, 3 hell, so 2 magicians charging up first. And then we have Walia at number 4, moving on to Ceres, Erinez, and then the warriors. Right, this is a very interesting formation. There's no defenders right here. Something seems kind of off though, extremely off. If you want to use Lian, you would want to use him with buffs. There's no way that you are just like putting him in all the way without any buff at all. So let's see if I can fix that, because do keep in mind, if you put something like this, like if your Lian moves first, the next person to move is your opponent, right? And your opponent can just pretty much, if they want to, guaranteed kill anyone in your team. That includes your Britain, Yunrang, or Foxy, which is situation at the top lane. So you gotta have that keep in mind. The moment immediately after you move, it's going to be your opponent's turn. And how well protected are your units right now? It seems like they are kind of exposed to a certain extent. You have Walia, why not make use of that, right? Why not make sure that all your warriors are protected safely from any opponents hitting you next after Lian move? So why not use Walia's taunt just to absorb that first hit from the opponent, soak in that first hit. Alright, so let's jump into the formations and I'll just show it to you guys what I would do instead. Alright, so this is what I came up with, exactly replicating every single one of your units with the exception of Edwin. I don't have him, so we're gonna use I for representation right there. Alright, since you're starting off with Lian charging in, I get it, you want to suicide, and hopefully at least. The problem with Lian is it's quite inconsistent, right? If you expect him to always be able to get rid of your opponents, it's going to be really risky, because someone like Lian is high damage and suicidal attack. You want to at least get rid of at least 2 of the opponents, and if you can't, it's just a waste of spot. Which is why if an opponent do something like this, your Lian will only be able to kill 1 enemy. So that is his biggest weakness. You need to know that moving forward. If you are like invested in using Lian, you know, Lian is ideally not a good unit for the regular PvP. In Underground Arena and in the Guild Wars, he definitely can work. He's very good because you know how the opponents are placing their mercenaries. It's much easier to at least hit 2 units. But with Lian, if the opponent go for something like this, your Lian is going to only kill 1 enemy, and yeah, that could be pretty bad. So Wiggle might be better. Wiggle can at least get rid of 2 next to each other because of the cross formation. Lian's, it's not really Lian being bad, it's just the range, easily countered. But depending on the league you're on, he can be really good. So if you really want to use him, and if you are like if you have already set your eyes on using him, here's what you need to do. You want to start off with something like Hell first. Hell is going to help out with the taunt next turn. You can either do Hell first or Edwin first, it doesn't really matter. But Lian, if you want to use him, he needs buff. At least 1 buff. and I can see it being an issue right here. Ideally for Lian, you would want crit rate and crit damage. That's what I would go for if I was building him for Arena specifically, because this particular skill doesn't deal much, but with the ability to shock the opponents, I believe that you do get later on when you increase the skill level. So that's what makes him extremely good. So you want to increase the crit rate and crit damage so that he has the ability to shock. Mine is still at +0. I'm not sure what yours is at +at. Alright, let's just go for something like this, right? Start off with Edwin. You can move Hell as second as always, but for your case, your third is going to be Walia, 4 Ceres, 5 Arenas, and then Leah next. So I would prefer you to set up your Briton to be the one to move first. So this is going to do two things. He's going to be able to freeze the enemy if the opponent has slightly tankier units, or if you lack the supports to actually at least eliminate the opponent easily, you still have the chance to freeze them. So that's a good thing that Briton has. And then you can go for either Yunrang or Foxy next. It doesn't really matter. Ideally, going for Yunrang would make more sense, because if the opponents are frozen, waiting the next turn for for Yunrang to hit first and then Foxy makes more sense, right? So something like this is ideally good. This is the best replacement that I can think of. It's good because Lian will receive buffs from Arenas, and same goes to Hell as well. Still not ideal. Ideally, you want to have a defender going on, which your team seriously lacks. So do consider using something like a Denarisa in place of Lian. I'm not sure how impactful that Lian is going to be. Even a Mercedes might help your team more. So you can, if you have something like a Mercedes, consider using her. She's quite easy to build. So just go for something like this. And then you don't really need Lian, I think. Mercedes at the back. So that way you go for similar things. So instead your 6B 7, 8, 9, 6. You know what? After Briton moves, I think by then Walia would have lost her taunt. So by then you can go for Mercedes 7, 8, 9, something like that. You can try this out. I do think that this is slightly beneficial for your team than having a Lian. I have no idea what server you're on, what arena league you're on, but ideally Lian is kind of a risky one if you want to use him in an arena scenario. He's good in underground arena, he's good in the guild wars, but I'm not sure if he's really good in the arena. Give it a shot. Okay, so moving on to the next one from user Mana Sack. So basically Hell on the first spot, and then there's Laura buffing Walia, and then Walia charge buffers Velfen for the charge up, followed by Ceres. Very interesting. Followed by, you'll be Leto moving first, and then you have Aaron, and then Gunter, and back to Briton. Okay, so I think this is a pretty interesting formation, but let's have a look at how we can try and modify this to do better. Okay, so first things first, I don't like your Briton's position. I'm going to say that out straight. I'm not sure what are you using Briton for. Briton, typically you use him offensively just to attack and to freeze opponents. You don't use him for defense. And if you are trying to protect against Leto, Yunrang, or maybe Vals, I don't think it's going to serve you well. He doesn't have anything except for the attack reduction after being attacked. Nothing special that he has that can prevent your Briton from dying, right? So Briton is not a Glacier. Glacier can at least freeze the opponent after she is hit. So I don't really like the Briton being there particularly. If you're trying to build a more defensive lineup, I would suggest you swap the Briton either with Acha, Sloan, or Hijin Diomeron if you have any of them. So those would be good candidates, but right now your Briton is just doing nothing. There's no buffs right there. Okay, the first major fix that I would do is basically to move, let's see. So my Vincent is basically your Laura right there. So you can see Walia is right here next to a Valfern. Ideally, that is not perfect because you are drawing attention towards her. It depends on what the enemies are using. If they have Foxy, your Valfern is pretty much dead. If they have Briton or Duen, your Gunter will get frozen, and depending on the plus of your Velfen, he might actually be frozen as well. So that's not such a good idea. Instead, you want to move Walia away. So something like this will be better. So you go from 1 to 2, right? So 3 should be Ceres. So 2 should be Ceres. Do something like this. Alright, so 2, 3, 4, charge up. I would go for something like this. 2, 3. Alright, so Vincent buffs Velfen. Velfen charges up. And then you have Walia buff Ceres, right? And then Ceres will buff Leto first. Alright, so after Leto, I'm not sure if you really want your Aaron to move next. I'm sure you are more aware of that, but depending on the plus on your Aaron does have quite a low amount of taunt turns. So putting that is generally a smart move, but since Leto is a single target unit, you are only getting rid of one opponent units. I don't think that's enough to immediately move into the taunt. If this Leto was a Christina or something like that, after you get rid of 3 of the opponents and then moving on to the taunt would be a good idea. But right now, single target, you don't know who you're going to get rid of. Maybe you get rid of opponents there, all their DPS are still alive, so I'm not sure how good is that. So you want to like try and perhaps Gunter as the number 7, and then Sarah as 8, then Aaron in your case as 8, and then I really don't know for this particular one. If you have Diomaron, I would use him here, but ideally right now I don't think Britain fits that spot that well. I would go for something like a Denarisa. She might be able to tank better right there, just being there, and it depends on what units you're struggling with. If are struggling more of frontal attacks, you might want to move Denarisa all the way front, so that way you move everybody back and something like this. This is kind of good because your Leto and Gunter are protected from Foxy and Sigmund depending on how many of those you have in your league. So then Denarisa can deal with Wilhelmina. That means your Ceres can actually stay there for at least one more round, hopefully to be able to try and buff your Leto, Gunter and Velfen one more time. Alright, so I would go for something like this, and this is also good because if after your Walia's taunt there's an opponent Vals, Denarisa might be able to take that hit as opposed to Ceres dying right there, which would be such a waste in round 1. So do give this formation a try. I do think that it's a slight upgrade to your previous one. Consider swapping Britain out for something better like Denarisa. Highly recommended. Give it a shot. Let me know if it works well for you. Alright, so moving on to the next one. Alright, so the next formation we're going to check out is from a user called Kyo. Alright, I like the formation a lot, especially... Ooh, very interesting formation for sure. That's Hela number 1, obviously, so charging up. And then we have the Walia goes second, goes to buff Narisa. Narisa will chain it to I right there. And then followed by Leto and Ser and Seto, and then Aaron. And lastly we have Lucius. Alright, so definitely very interesting team composition. Like ideally if you have this kind of units, I'm not sure what plus you have them at, but if you have them at the optimal level, you should be in Crystal League regardless of the server you're on. So this is a very good team composition here, but I can see your formation being much more of an issue. If you do encounter Vals, it's pretty much a goodbye to your Walia and your Aaron. Maybe Lucius will still leave. So yeah, you have like 1, 2, 3, 4 taunts in your team. There's nothing wrong with that. If you want to have 4 taunts, make sure to utilize them correctly. Hell, alright, so Hell going first means that round 2 she will activate taunt. That means that, I don't know, you might want to let go some of your, either one of your Aaron or Ser. I don't think you will need them there. Walia is still good because you can chain her taunt in the beginning of the turn. So 2 to 3, pretty generic right there. I'm not sure if your Leto and your Seto will struggle to one-hit kill. I don't think they will. But right, let's see what I can do right here. I'm gonna, as always, try to build out the formation. Delete all my mercenaries. Let's go. Alright, so this is what I came up with. Obviously, I do not have Seto, the dragon rider, so instead we are going to use Maya, the chicken rider instead. Okay, so to represent Seto, and of course Grosa to replace your Aaron. So I do see this formation a lot. I've seen it used in Crystal League a lot. So instead of doing something like this, the players would do something like this. So this is a much better team composition. It helps you out much better. So ideally you do not want to place Walia all the way in front. It depends on, I'm not sure how strong is your Aaron, in this case my Grosa, or how strong is your Seer, like what plus are they. But I noticed that you have Archer, you have Denarisa at +9. So in certain cases they might be better. So Archer +9, Denarisa +9, with good runes, they're going to be able to tank pretty much all the hits. So yeah, you might want to consider going something like this. Moving up here, and what I would do is I would move Seto right here. So why is this important? This placement right here, this could make a huge impact on your performance in PvP, especially when you attack offensively. Seto, as always, you want to look Seto as a warrior that's similar to Jin. He's going to kill at least one unit with his single target range if you buff him correctly, and he's going to be able to one-shot one more if he counters with a reflective counter. If you place him right here, he's pretty much safe. He's not going to get hit by anyone. No backline hitters can penetrate through and hit him, and no front hitters can penetrate through and hit him. You want to place him here, at least some of the skip tiles like Foxy or even a Sigmund will hit him. Even if he dies, at least he's done his job eliminating, getting rid of the opponent, so it's 1-to-1 trade-off. You're not losing much right there. So I do think that that makes more sense as opposed to your Lito being here. So your Lito dies, and then followed by your eye dies, and then followed by your Seto. Only you will get that trade. So that's a far later trade in the later rounds. So I do think that placing him right here, same like how people usually position their Jin, you want to position Jin preferably either in front or in skip. You want to expose them a little bit. Like, you don't want to expose them like in a single lane like that, you know, but you want to expose them a little bit in the attack line compared to other warriors. So do not expose your Lito, expose your Seto instead. So that's going to help you out. I believe the reflective counter should be able to get rid of at least 1 to 2 opponents. Okay, so Walia should be right there. That should be fine. Followed by Ceres right here. I do think this is a good one because your Aaron is right here, right next to I. So that way, Naresa's buff, which includes Agi and reduces incoming damage, will help out your Aaron. So if you do not want to use Aaron, you could try using Seer as well. So you could move Seer right there. It's going to be a huge issue if you have Taunt right there most of the time because of the, I'm not sure how many Gunters you actually encounter in the arena. During the first round you should be safe because Gunter is a skip, so they would jump back and hit Lucius instead. But if you have Taunt right here, it's going to go for whoever that's there. So since you have Archer, you might want to consider using Archer instead. So that might be a good replacement. I noticed you have a +9 Archer, a +9 Denarisa. Denarisa cannot receive buffs. She has this skill, this particular skill here. So she might work pretty well to replace your Aaron if your Aaron is not skilled up much. Doing something like this can help you a bit, but if you want to go for Archer, I think he can work as well. I don't think your Lucius will die that soon. So as long as your Lucius is still alive, you're gonna be safe from Foxys, Gunters, and those skip tiles. You don't have to worry about that much. But Archer should protect you from Wilhelmina, just to be able to burn them. And Arisa's buff is going to help him out a little bit to survive even longer as well. So yeah, other than that, turn order wise, I mean, you do have Lito going first. Not sure if I'm a big fan of that. I would prefer you to let Seto go first. I think that will make more sense. So Maya is your Seto. And then apparently you have Seer next. So that's like an in-betweener, followed by Lito again. Again, you don't have to rush with Leto moving first. So yeah, I think this pretty much covers everything, everything that you need basically in terms of taunts and everything. But you know, you could go for something like Leto's first before Seer, and then the opponent has basically a few number of turns, because Seer's taunt is like basically 10 turns, right? So by then the opponent move, your Acha move, the opponent move, and your Lucius move. I think they will be directing their attacks towards Seer. So when round 2 starts, you know, Hell will be the one doing the taunt instead. I think this is a pretty good lineup. You could give it a shot. I do like this formation a lot. Oh yeah, a quick note to mention. If you do encounter Vals a lot, this is going to be good because your Walia will be directing all the Vals towards her. So this is hopefully she will only hit her alone, right? That's the strategy right here. Okay, so the last team we're going to check out is from a user called Hakuga. Alright, welcome to the Discord channel, Hakuga. So I see you have a Hell right there. Hell followed by Walia, very standard. And then you have Ceres. Ceres to Livia, followed by... Okay, so your formation is pretty solid. I think this is a pretty solid formation. You just need a little bit of tweaking to make it slightly better, slightly safer. So let's help you out a little bit. Okay, so I can see you putting Edwin at the back is just mainly to protect against Leto, against Vals. I can understand why. First, let's configure your formation first, and then we will jump into it. Okay, as always, I don't really have an Edwin, so we're going to use Wester for representation and Viola for Vals. So ideally, your Edwin at the back, just to protect against Vals or Leto, is good. But if you were to encounter Foxy, for example, which is still one of the main used characters right here in my server, not sure about yours, this is going to be a dead weight for you, because both Velfen and Viola will get eliminated instantly. You do have Valia to attract that, but instead, just to be safe, you want to do something like this. Move Hell all the way to the front. So go for something like this. This would be a much safer choice for you. So instead of letting Hell goes first, I'm not sure how good is that, but I guess that could work. Hell can still go first, but second, you want Livia to go first. That's just to get rid of opponent haunters. Alright, and then you can obviously still chain things around. You have Walia to Ceres, to your Edwin, hopefully, and then to your Velfren. So ideally, I have no idea why you let Leto go first. I would usually, if you have the choice between two warriors, Vals going first is better. Leto and Vals, they are both pretty strong, but since you are the first one to go, why not let your Vals goes first? Because instead, when the opponent moves next, let's say they have a taunt going on, Leto would ignore the taunt, right? So the taunt won't affect Leto as how it will affect Vals. So you want Vals to go first for your case, followed by Leto. So something like this will be better, and then Stair last. I do think this is much more beneficial to your team. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So ideally, Edwin right there. I'm not sure if you want to chain him, because after Livia moves, Edwin moves. Maybe it depends. You can give this a shot and see how, because whenever you have too many magicians, your round 2's attack order is going to be slightly jumbled up, because every time the mage moves, it's going to switch back to the opponent's turn order. So if this doesn't work too well, you could try for something like this. Like I mentioned, let Vals goes first. So go for something like this. 3, 4, 5. So let Vals goes first. Velfen moves after. Try to like perhaps sweep out as many as he can, and then followed by Edwin and Leto last. Hopefully Leto will still have the Ignore Taunt by then, by the turn of round 2. That's going to depend, right? Usually, most of the time, he will still have it, so I wouldn't be too worried about it. So yeah, give this formation a try. I do think that this is a good quick fix, because Ceres right here, if there's an opponent Foxy or Sigmund that goes in first, your Ceres will be the one to die, supporters die. Ideally, that's the best case scenario. You want them, either supporters or defenders, be the first one to get eliminated, not your warriors. And your Livia is protected right there, as opposed to your previous formation where your Vals and Velfen might both just get eliminated instantly. Alright guys, that's gonna be it for today's video. Hope you enjoyed it. As always, if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. If you want to post your formations, feel free to do so in the Discord channel. Links will be in the description below. So yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a nice day. Goodbye.